Hi, Conduct.her fans. We just want to give a heads up that this episode contains some explicit verbiage. If you have young listeners around, put in some headphones. Thank you.
Hi, and welcome to Conduct.her, where we are two sisters on a mission to amplify women's voices on the podium. Join us as we interview leaders in the field of choral music, share resources, and build a community for current and future teacher conductors, all while exploring the gender divide. I'm Kira Starr.
And I'm McKenna Stenson, and we are
Conduct.her. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conduct.her. We are so excited today to have Dr. Andrea Ramsey with us as part of our Carnegie Hall Miniseries podcast. And today we're going to talk to Andrea about her newest commission and world premiere, The Wilderness of You.
So just for a little context, we're sitting here in a hotel in New York City, really close to Times Square, and it's just electric. Everything feels like this is a culminating moment, and we're just kind of bringing colliding worlds together. And so we can't wait for you to learn about this work and this project. And just for context, Andrea has not heard the piece sung live yet. So this is being recorded before she gets to go into rehearsal. And we'll do a little follow-up later after she's heard some of these amazing choirs come together. So Andrea, welcome to the podcast. And would you tell us a little bit about The Wilderness of You and the consortium behind this work and how National Concerts is bringing this experience together?
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here. I'm thrilled about this. And I think the early thoughts of this kind of began right after my first collaboration of this kind with National Concerts in 2020. Matthew Workman of National Concerts believed in my vision for suffrage cantata and helped to organize my consortium for that work, which, thanks to the pandemic, wasn't actually premiered until April of 2022. But it was a really powerful experience for everyone involved. And after that, we began discussions about the possibility of something down the road. And eventually that led to The Wilderness of You. And National Concerts, their team is incredible for promoting this work. And then I did some promotion work on my own. And then as a result, we were fortunate to gain several other ensembles. So Temple University joined as a co-commissioner with National Concerts at that level. And then our broader consortium includes Baylor University, Bridgewater State University, Linfield University, the University of Oregon, Cantate Carlisle in Pennsylvania, the E.O. Smith High School Choirs in Connecticut, the Lake Nona High School Choirs in Orlando, Rider University Chorale, the University of Michigan, and the University of Missouri of Kansas City Conservatory of Music choirs there.
That's pretty amazing.
That must feel so exciting to have all of these ensembles coming together. And even though they're not all present, to know how collaborative this experience has been just from the very start. And so now that we've heard a little bit about the consortium and about the vision of coming together to get to Carnegie Hall, could you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for The Wilderness of You and how this project came to life in your mind?
Sure. This is always an interesting thing when people ask about the inspiration, because I think everybody wants sort of a clear-cut answer, and it's not always that way. And so when I was thinking about, I don't know, because you would send these questions earlier, I'm thinking about what is this inspiration? And I was going to answer in this purely creative sense. Like, I spent time mulling this idea of a work based on the wonders of the human body and how complex and how marvelous it is and how much is going on in there. And that's all true, but I'm not sure that's the full story. Probably for the past 6 or 7 years, I've been on this slow journey of just becoming more aware of my own body. Prior to that, I think I was just sort of a walking head. like all my energy was mental, it was creativity, it was learning, it was academics. And I would say I even had like an antagonistic relationship with my body. I didn't like aspects of it. I was a conductor, but the other women conductors I saw were beautiful and thin and often petite. And I didn't really see myself in those people. I didn't see myself as beautiful yet. And I have always been kind of a sturdy girl. So there was a lot of self-loathing toward my body. And so for me, the book, The Body Is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor, began my journey toward embodiment. But her book talked about radically loving your body. And I wasn't yet able to even fathom that.
And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
The Conduct.her choral series, powered by Music Spoke, is an intentional platform that highlights the voices of women and their allies in the choral music world. This series is designed to elevate and celebrate the contributions of women throughout history, as well as those currently shaping the music scene. Its name, Conduct.her, intertwines the role of a conductor with the concept of empowerment and the recognition of women in music, a field where their contributions have often been overlooked or underrepresented.
The series serves as a celebration of diverse women's voices, composers, conductors, singers, and advocates, by providing access to choral works that reflect their unique perspectives, creativity, and experiences. Through this collection, Music Spoke gives both emerging and established composers the opportunity to share their voices with the choral community, providing a sense of inclusivity, visibility, and accessibility to repertoire. Check out the Conduct.her choral series today for your next concert.
And we're back.
Which is sad for me to say now. I think about how long I spent in that mindset. But the idea of self-compassion made more sense to me. And when I discovered that later through Kristen Neff's research and work, it clicked. Like, self-compassion says you should at least be as good a friend to yourself as you are to other people. You know, like, allow yourself mistakes. That's a human thing that we all do. Like, give yourself grace rather than shit-talking yourself. And I think those two books alongside therapy, like, started to shift my perspective. And I began to think of this body as a home, as like a friend and a collaborator and a place where I live. And it's this incredible thing that, like, got me through a pandemic, got me through 3 degrees and multiple jobs in different states and moves and all of those kinds of things. And somewhere in realizing that, I kind of made peace with this and made truce with my body and began to learn more about it and how it responds to certain foods and activities and, you know, and it's crazy, you know. And so then I started, then this sense of wonder became like in my mind of what this thing does for us and for all of us, like what our bodies do for us. And so maybe that's a long-winded answer for this, but I think it's the honest one. And so The Wilderness of You is born out of that idea, out of writing work to honor these bodies, to admire the miraculous things that they do for us daily. And then when I was sharing this idea with Dr. MacMullen, one of the things she reminded me of was what a unifying concept this is, because we all have bodies, we all have journeys, and we're all in different places with our bodies. And some of us aren't even really aware of ours yet, and some of us are very hyper aware in ways that maybe even are unhealthy. And so anyway, I just love that component as well, like this fact that this is all something we have, particularly at a time when there seems to be so much of taking sides or dividing ourselves. This is a unifying thing, our bodies.
Well, just having been in the rehearsal a little bit last night and then thinking about the story that you just shared and the background of the work, I can already see this as a transformative experience for the singers, just from their initial reactions to the score and to hear them come together, but to have this context behind it. What a thing we all need in this moment. And like you've said, this universal concept of, oh my gosh, just like experiencing your body. I've had some new experiences with my body this year because I had my son. And so like developing new relationships with your body, there's so many things to unpack. As you were speaking, I was like, don't get emotional, McKenna. Like, we haven't even gotten into the main interview questions, but wow, I'm just going to keep going back to that first answer for some time. Text and inspiration are so critical for a composer. The text of this work, The Wilderness of You, is adapted from poetry by Jared K. Anderson. And so we're wondering, you know, after you've gone through this journey and thought about the body, what drew you to this text specifically, and how did you go about putting that text together from Anderson's original words?
Yeah, so I was given a book of his poetry by a friend at Christmas, and a Field Guide to the Haunted Forest, and I just devoured it. And it's a little skinny book, but it was wild to me when I was reading it, just some of the ways he wrote about things. Like, there was a poem called The Big Bang, and he talked about these, I'm going to paraphrase badly, Bear, but he was like, the universe is an ongoing explosion. That's where you live, in the middle of an explosion. And just like, he has these ways of shifting paradigms where you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about that. And, you know, and how we relate to that. And as I read that book and then I ordered his others and read the other books that he had existing, there was so much about the body and the natural world, nature, which I also really love, and how it was all intertwined. And it was just full of wonder and deep appreciation with this heaping side of self-compassion, which is also something that was big on my radar. And so I knew, if at all possible, I wanted to work with his words. Also, just for whatever it's worth, I can't recommend enough his new book, which isn't poetry, but is magnificent. It's called Something in the Woods Loves You. And he connects nature with his own mental health journey and broader social issues, and is just a really powerful read.
I love hearing you talk, Andrea, about this work, and you can just see on your face that you're really passionate about it, and you start to light up a little bit when I think you talk about your own experiences connecting with this work, and I can see from your presence here in this hotel room as we're talking to you, just how meaningful this is to you. And I think that's so exciting to be witness of. And I can't wait to see it come to life and to hopefully watch your face when you see it perform for the first time on stage. I think it's going to be electric. The next question is, this is a larger work divided into 5 movements. The first being blood, then breath, then biome or gut, then brain, and then being. And we wanted to ask what has been meaningful or unique about how the text in each movement interacts with the musical elements. But I also wanted to follow up on something you said earlier, which was that you never had felt that you were beautiful prior to having this sort of transformation in your own body and mind. And it's been a journey to get here. And I think this is something that probably everyone listening to this podcast has felt at some point in their life. I was just with some of my best friends this past weekend, and we're all in our 30s now, and they were talking about the struggles with dating as a woman, and how sometimes we can just be so hard on ourselves. And they talked about being in middle school and high school and just feeling self-hatred towards their bodies. And I think as educators and as musicians, this is something that we bear witness to every day. And I try constantly to remind my singers, like, you matter and you are here for a reason, and we need to show up and accept ourselves and lift each other up. And so I love how you spoke about talking to yourself as though you were your friend, maybe, and how that was pretty transformational in your self-talk. And now a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
Hey everyone, come check out the newest collaborations with Conduct.her and Call Time Clothing. Shop the newest designs from your favorite female conductor-owned clothing line, inspired by choir music education, made to order just for you. Get one of your own for $35 Canadian, or about $26 American, plus a flat rate shipping fee. Visit calltimeclothing.com today. Do you live near other conductors and want to save on shipping? Order multiple tees in one order so that you only pay one shipping fee. Visit calltimeclothing.com today or follow us on Instagram.
And we're back.
So I was wondering, in addition to talking about the meaning behind the text and what was unique about this with the musical elements, could you talk about if this text in any particular movement helped you even more with this transformation, or if there's one movement in particular that kind of connected your own body with this sense of beauty and wonder that you were talking about?
Good question, Kira.
I have so many thoughts about body, and we could talk about that.
Well,
I mean, I just think also conductors, like, and the idea of body, and Sonia Renee Taylor talks about body hierarchy. And when I say that, a lot of people look, oh, and I talked to a group of educators in Pennsylvania about it, and said, think about it. What when you look at it, like, what a really powerful conductor. What is that body? Is that body thin? Is that body thick? Is that body tall? Is that body short? And like, you can suss out pretty quickly, like, we have these hierarchies. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, because we're moving on to the music now, but that's a whole other conversation we can have another time. But I think that, yeah, it's so fascinating. All of the movements impacted me in different ways, but mostly from the angle of just learning things, like especially when I was working on biome, which the title of the piece comes from biome, because he talks about there is a garden in your belly, a warm orchard of perpetual bounty, and all of these, like, the fact that half the cells in our body are not of the human species, are like, because of the gut biome, there are colonizers. I was like, this can't be right. And I looked it up and it's right. And I was like, wait, what? So, like, amazing stuff. But then the last line talks about, how many generations have you hosted? What do they name the wilderness of you? And this idea of, like, zooming back, and the idea that even alone we are communities is crazy to me. So that one I think was just really powerful in terms of just, I don't think I'd ever had so much of admiration for my digestive tract. Like, right? Like you're like, and then when you think about biome, like, really from like when you swallow to when things leave, you're like, this is wild. Brain was fascinating for me too, but I think probably the other one that was most impactful, well, breath and being, particularly the phrase at the end where it says there will always be problems too big for you, an unknown future, a tragic world. That's okay. You're the world too. Just be you. And that's a really powerful moment because I think sometimes we feel like it's just me. Yeah, I am the world too. It's right. Like, and what I'm doing right in front of me matters. Breath. I love the idea of conversing with forests and trees, the fact that we exchange air in that way. There's a lot there to think about with regard to text. Musical elements, this is harder to discuss. I mean, I think because I'm so close to it. Blood is the longest movement, and there's a lot of drama in it. We start in it with a sense of the cosmos, like in outer space, and this idea of a lump of iron in a red supergiant that explodes, and then this iron travels to Earth and is forged into a hammer and into a ring, into a sword, and that it's this iron that makes our blood red. And then the character shifts because we are talking about what, now we have blood. We have this idea that flowing crimson in the blood of every sleeping child is this silent explosion, right? And 2,000 gallons a day of this, like pumping through our heart, and it's mostly water. And a week ago it was a thunderstorm, and before long it'll be in the ocean, and so through the course of it, you hear the outer space, you hear the pumping heart, you hear the forging of the whatever. It was a really literal painting. And then toward the end, it gets really elemental about look at what you are, water, because we're mostly water. Look at how you live. Look at, when we go through each of the elements, earth and air, and then it's look at how you live, and it says fire, which that's the one that feels metaphorical, but just passion, right? Like going forward. Breath is not the same way as like where blood, I think, is more following the drama in terms of music. And breath, I think, is more static, and you have just more repetitive elements. This idea of 15 times a minute with or without thought, and that recurs again and again, and then we layer new parts on it. So there's a lot of ostinato, and that before it switches into different characters, when it talks about, in the stream, we're braiding hymns of water and light. A ribcage cathedral in the stream braids hymns of water and light. And then even later, this idea of each nourishing breath, a sacred vow. And that moment feels even more like chant until you come to the line, intimate as I love you, which of course I gave to the altos.
Of course.
I love them. Biome is probably the one that scares me the most. I'm like so excited to hear it, but I'm also like, is it gonna work? Oh. Because there's moments of aleatory in Biome. There's harmonic singing, so we have overtones that are occurring. Like I just wanted to get wild with the gut. I'm using wah-wah tubes, which I learned about. I did a whole lot of exploring and looking at percussion ideas, and so those are so fun if you haven't heard them, because it's like a tone chime, but it has a little hole that you can manipulate, so it goes boom, wah, 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 wah. And so that I don't know. We'll see if it works. But I just got wild with that one, and I loved it. And then brain is the fastest one, and maybe the tightest thing I've written. I mean, I just feel like it's all, and it feels like electric, it's this idea of a machine that makes reality now, but then it's also natural as a leaf. So you have a little moment that feels more legato and more human, and then a lot of moments that feel almost electric or sterile in their production of things. And then being doesn't end with a big closer. It's like that would have been the low-hanging fruit to go great big. But I really wanted us to come home to our body. And so being for me is the culmination of all of it. So we've got these different aspects of the body: brain, breath, biome, blood, and then being like everything, right? Like our consciousness, our spirit, our who we are.
And now a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn Hagan, composer and founder of Compose Like a Girl, a choral series dedicated to empowering composers who identify as women through mentorship, publication, and promotion. With over 30 pieces in the series, with many different voicings, we're showcasing fresh, compelling music like Womankind by Emily Drum, The Infinity of Space by Ritika Bhattacharjee, and When I Become an Old Woman by Sherry Blevins. Explore the catalog at jocelynhagan.com/composelikeagirl and graphitepublishing.com.
And we're back.
I'm going inward here for this ending.
Well, I know you were saying, this question, like when you're so close to the work, sometimes it's hard to see the correlation between the text and the musical components. But last night, as the choir was singing, I was like, gosh, she's so good at connecting the text and these musical elements. And I think just like for the first listen, getting to hear breath and the repetition of the ostinato pattern of that 15 times a minute, and all of a sudden thinking like, oh my gosh, we are breathing 15 times a minute with or without that. We're not really thinking through it. And just that repetitive pulse that goes all the way through, you almost forget about it. And then the altos come in and you're like, oh my gosh, we're still doing it. Or with Biome, getting to watch Dr. MacMullen navigate some of those aleatoric passages. And now knowing more about these cells being in our body that aren't organic to us, just the intermingling and sort of like the coexisting of those together. We might need to splice in a little bit of the background of that right here, because I feel like as soon as you hear it, there's a different way that you interpret the text because you've just put it together so magically. So many cool things. This has been so collaborative. You've spoken about a little bit of national concerts and just that collaboration with getting the work started, collaboration with text and different books of inspiration, working with different people. I know this collaboration with Dr. MacMullen is so special because you all have a deep and meaningful relationship. And we were just wondering, can you talk about that creative process and creating with others, and what have been some of the joys and challenges?
Sure. I think collaboration is almost always harder and almost always better. And then there are exceptions to that rule. I don't feel like it's hard collaborating with Dr. MacMullen because we go back for so long, having been colleagues at Ohio State and friends for such a long time. So I'm thrilled about that. I'm thrilled about working with her. The collaboration with the poet, he was incredible. Jared Anderson, we really worked together on this, and he did control find and pulled everything from his existing texts about the body, pasted them into a document, sort of let me go to town and present ideas to him. And we did a back and forth until he felt comfortable with the adaptation as well. It was really beautiful. And then he just sort of stepped away, and I invited him here, but I think he's so busy with the new book that we just haven't been in touch as much. The consortium members, that's been wonderful because I've heard from them. I have a document where a Google Doc where they can report errata. So when they find errors in the score, and I can answer it there. And so because it's still very much, no matter how many times you look at it, there's mistakes. National Concerts has been incredible in helping to organize this and get the choirs together to make it happen. And I just really I'm grateful to Matt Workman for believing in this work. But yeah, this time it was different because I realized at some point I had to face reality, and I was like, I'm not going to have time to do the strings. And I was thinking about hiring them both out, the strings and percussion. But I reached out to Luke Benton, who I've collaborated with before for string arrangements, who's wonderful. And he was like, I'll do the strings, but I'm going to leave the percussion to you. Like, I feel like that's more personal. And I was like, great. And so he did the string arrangements. I did the percussion, but I wasn't thinking about how much more that would complicate things with the engraver, because we were working in different versions of Finale and coordinating that. So toward the end, that got a little bogged down, but we got through it and it happened. Yeah, and then I'm just really excited to see what Dr. MacMullen does with it, what she brings out of it that I didn't know was there, which always happens. And then, the only thing I've heard so far is she sent me a voice memo of the first read through a breath with her choirs when they did it, and it was really exciting. So I can't wait.
You've talked a lot about the musical process and the steps that you took to get to today and the performance, which is in 2 days from now. And you mentioned briefly, figuring out the finale situation with the engraver and, all of these instrumental parts that you were navigating in addition to the choral vocal and piano vocal score that I'm sure you had to create for the rehearsal process. Were there any other challenges that you encountered while composing the work? And if so, how did you overcome them?
I think most of the challenges for this work were mental. But I bet just feeling like really having to do homework on percussion and making sure, okay, this works, this is playable, this is, because these are different instruments, figuring out how to notate wah-wah tubes, because I literally couldn't find any examples of notation for that. And I did, but I'm still not sure it's the best way. And for a long time, I procrastinated breath just because I love that text so much, but I couldn't seem to figure out what I wanted to do with it. So it was the last movement that I wrote, some of these extended techniques, all of that. But the mental piece, was more of it. So you get in there and you just, there's always a middle part with just a ton of self-doubt. And the whole work is through composed. So there's no movement that repeats any of the material from the other movements. Like Suffrage Cantata, we had this cohesion, right? You could tie it together. Body, each of these felt so different, and they needed to be their own thing. But then when you look at it, that means you're literally writing 25 minutes of music. There's some repetition within the movements that makes the movements feel cohesive, but there's nothing, that comes back at the end from the beginning or anything like that. And so I think that was a challenge too, because it's just a lot more measures.
Well, it's been interesting to be a little bit of a fly on the wall for you as you've gone through this process, because I remember being in Kansas City and you starting to talk about, there's this project, Matt Workman reached out and I think I'm going to do something about the body, reading through all these texts and watching you go through sort of the beginning stages of this all the way through being here. As an outsider, it's been really cool to see you live and lean and dive into this work in a really impactful way. So it's just going to be beautiful to see this interaction with you and the students. And I just can't believe it's here. And all of the pieces that are so beautiful, the cover art, it's just so integrated in such a meaningful way. Our last question for the main portion of this interview is, in the introduction of the score, you close with a line that states, "May we hold ourselves in awe as wonderful creations worthy of dignity and decency." And I think that all ties back to what you've talked about with your own journey in the body. But would you like to talk about this choral work and how it might contribute to the broader choral community and in general the world of contemporary choral music today?
I think, obviously you hope people perform it and you hope it goes on and it has a life. But when I listen to that question, I almost think that question is asking me to be bigger than I am. And I think maybe that's the crux of it, is that we don't have to be, that it doesn't have to be something grand, that we can be ourselves, we can just be who we are, that the world is always telling us to hustle for our worth, to win for our worth, But the wilderness of use is just be you. You don't have to hustle for your worth. Your worth is inherent in you. My worth is inherent in me. We all have these same elements that make us uniquely us. And we all have these elements that are the same. We're all worthy of dignity and decency. And if I can honor that in you, and you can honor that in me, we could fix most of the world's problems.
And now, a quick word from our sponsors.
Conductor, 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 conductor.
Hey, Kira.
Hey, McKenna.
You know what choral directors are always looking for?
What?
Well, as choral directors, we are always looking for new pieces to program for our upcoming concerts, and Pavon Publishing is proud to have some outstanding women composers and conductors in its catalog.
Wow, what are some of the new releases?
Well, let me tell you. Canto e Liberta by Diana Saez and Suzette Ortiz for treble voices, piano, and percussion. It was premiered under the direction of Dr. Iris Levine from Conduct.her Season 1 and is in her Pavon Treble Choral series.
Ukrainian composer Irina Alexichuk's Holy Lord of Hosts is stunning and was premiered in the U.S. by Grant Gershon and the LA Master Chorale. Grant has launched his new series with Pavon in support of this remarkable composer.
Zenaida Robles, one of the most sought-after female writers, will have her latest composition, The Summit is Nigh, premiered at the ACDA National Convention in Dallas this March. Again, a Conduct.her Season 2 interviewee.
Janaea Robison, conductor of the Lutheran National Choir, has two new offerings: an SATB voicing of her successful setting of I Wonder as I Wander, and new editions of Bach's cantata BWV 118, with alternative lyrics that enables performances from Advent and Christmas to Palm Sunday and Easter. Check out Pavon Publishing today at pavonpublishing.com.
And we're back.
Well, that was beautiful. Is there anything outside of what you've already said that you hope that the listeners know about this piece? And this isn't on the list of questions that we already asked you, but you just summarized your experience so beautifully. Is there anything else that you want them to know? Because this is your moment.
I think maybe just that I think the piece is accessible for, like, you don't have to be a university choir to do this. I think a solid community chorus, an advanced high school choir can perform this work. And also, as great as the string parts are and as great as the percussion is, I was surprised at how well it works just piano and choir. So I really think there may be a lot of ensembles who choose to do this and not bring in if they don't have the instruments, fine, do it with piano.
That's awesome. That's what we were looking for. Closing fun question. What is one of the best but most underrated things to do in the Big Apple, New York City?
I think that's hard to answer. But I think that, the last few times I've been in New York, I don't know if I'm going to get to do much of it this time. Just getting out of Midtown is really fun. But I really love the High Line in Chelsea, and I don't know if you all have walked that or not, but it's, it was a freight train track that's elevated that was going to be torn down, and the community rallied to turn it into a park and a trail. So there are beautiful sculptures, and it's this elevated trail, and just a lovely place that I don't know that it's hidden gem. I think most people know about it, but it's stunning, and it's not Times Square. So.
Well, we've been so grateful for your time this morning. We have to go down to rehearsal, everyone, to go and check out what's happening.
Hi, everyone. Conduct.her here with Lauren Lafferty, a graduate student in choral conducting at Baylor University. Yes. Lauren, thank you so much for talking with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about how this experience has been for you? Getting to work on this incredible piece.
Yeah, I think initially what is so cool about this piece is seeing Dr. Kristina MacMullen is conducting it and seeing her childlike wonder and discovering things or a different way to think about the body that she hadn't thought about. And so that's been really infectious, just having her be and this, and our elements, big on the 4 elements. Okay. So look out for these elements. All right. Within us, we've got water, earth, fire, and air. And so that's throughout the work. And yeah, she's I never thought of it that way. But I think for me personally, I feel like a lot of people can probably relate. And especially as a conductor, we have to be connected with our bodies. But I'm a woman. me and my body, we have like a little, we have like
Complex
not a
relationship.
rocky relationship.
Complex.
Okay. Like it's been doing this. And so I think it's been really healing for me to like think about my body in this way. So the work is essentially like marveling in awe at all of the things that the body does and like all of the unique, like powerful things that we just don't even think about. And so that's been really like, wow, okay, I can cherish my body in this way, in a way outside of society / what it looks like. Because conducting too, right? Like everyone's kind of looking at what you're doing.
Incredible.
Well, you should definitely check out the first episode of this mini-series. We just chatted with Dr. Ramsey, and she talked about so many things that you are bringing up. So you are reading her mind, and definitely be programming this work because it is so healing and informative and beautiful. We are really excited to be talking to the fabulous Alyssa Suber. She's going to share a bit about her experience with the Wilderness Project.
Yeah, this has been so fabulous. Kristina MacMullen is our conductor at Baylor, and so I've gotten to work with her as we've gotten the manuscript for this piece. It's so infrequent that you get to see a piece from its very beginnings and actually ask the composer, what were you thinking when you did this? Could we try this? Could we try that? It's been really cool to be like part of something from its inception, which is like a really rare treat.
Incredible. What's it been like singing and knowing you're going to get to perform the piece in Carnegie?
It's Carnegie Hall. Like, to have the experience of being somewhere where all of these incredible performers and role models have gone before you it's really surreal, and this will be my first time in Carnegie. I've not sung here before, so this feels like a super special time, and to share it with Dr. MacMullen it's really special.
Thanks, Alyssa. We are so excited to be with you both. We are here in New York City, right down the street from Carnegie Hall. We're in Times Square. Lots of excitement about a brand new premiere that's happening, which is The Wilderness of You by fabulous composer-arranger Dr. Andrea Ramsey. Can you both share a little bit about who you are and your involvement in the premiere?
I am Professor Reginald Wright, and I conduct the Women's Choir at Baylor. And for this process, I submitted an arrangement of spiritual. He's got the whole world in his hands that will be performed on the Spotlight show that will feature the Baylor a cappella choir.
Amazing.
And I'm Dr. Will McLean, and I've been part of the preparation process for The Wilderness of You for our Baylor students. And I have students from the Baylor Concert Choir, a cappella, and Bella Voce here singing as a part of this larger choir.
Amazing. So we just came down. We're actually like in the basement in a FedEx office chatting a bit about this work. And we just heard the first like 40 minutes of rehearsal. And for Kira and I, our first time ever hearing the work live. Professor Wright, I don't know if that was your first time hearing it live, a little bit. So what are some takeaways hearing it as the larger group? What are some things you're excited to observe over the weekend and think about how they're going to develop?
For me, what I really like, I like the way it evolves from just choir, conductor, and accompanist until you add the rest of the pieces in inside the hall. Just that transformation and the excitement that the students have for all these new things that happen each day. It's really, really cool to watch all that hard work come to fruition, especially in a place like Carnegie Hall. It's a little different than, like, doing a premiere at your own school is great, but doing one at Carnegie Hall is really fantastic.
And to build on that, one of the coolest things about this process is that we've got singers that are coming from Massachusetts, from Texas, from Oregon. So there's singers that are coming from all corners of the country to come together to do a work that talks about the unification of how our human body works. And so like to come together from all across the country to talk about something that we all experience all of the time is a really unique thing. The work is super creative. It involves all kinds of really unique compositional techniques that highlight things like how our breath works, how our stomach biome works together, and how our brain sends signals across our whole body of how things operate.
Yeah, Dr. MacMullen, who's conducting the work, who is also a member of the Baylor faculty, the director of choral activities there, was talking about how this work is founded on wonder and all of the childlike intricacies that can be found. So stay tuned for that. Professor Wright, can you tell us a little bit about your arrangements and sort of how that came to be? And is this your first work being premiered in Carnegie Hall?
No, actually, this is my third work in 3 years. So yeah, last year I was here, and 2 years before that, I think would that have been 22? I was here with the Total Creek Chorale.
Amazing.
And so for this particular project, what I did is I arranged, he's got the whole world in his hands. And so I took the Kathleen Battle solo and revoiced the choir as an accompaniment. And we transcribed the Jesse Norman Kathleen Battle duet and placed choir under that as a choral accompaniment. And then I'm doing like an improv piano under the bottom of that. Really, really exciting. And they'll use that to close out their short set.
So just casually also playing and improvising on Carnegie Hall stage. I mean, I just, like you said it so elegantly, and I just wanted to circle back there to say most of us aren't going to be doing that in a lifetime. So to close out our little first interview section, you two are colleagues at Baylor. What is one thing that you would be willing to share about working together as colleagues? And that can be goofy or silly or serious. What is so special about being colleagues together at Baylor University?
Okay, so one of the best things that we do every single day is that we laugh every day.
Every day.
And one of the things we love about that is that I think it's just an outward expression of joy, and it truly is a joy to work with Professor Wright, Dr. MacMullen, and college and academia can be hard, and our students get to see that we can model teamwork and selflessness and joy amongst those things, and we get to experience that in a real way. And so that's my favorite part of working with these folks. And at the end of this work, we talks about you come home, like you belong, and all of those things. Those are things we carry into our work every day and feel that from our colleagues and from our friends, and they become like family. And so that's the best part.
Yeah, the laughing, the fit checks. Fit checks. Yeah. So I think having our students witness our camaraderie is a really special thing. This is only my second year in higher ed. I've taught public school for the past 24 years. And so after talking to friends of mine that conduct choirs or they run choral programs and hearing how some of the inner workings between the colleagues work, I think we have a really special situation. What Dr. MacMullen has done so well is that she's formed a team based on strengths, and each one of us operate in our areas of strength. And I think that benefits the whole group. So everyone is contributing in the way that they can contribute the most and best. And that's really, really cool.
That's super beautiful. Thank you, too. Just to give one more Dr. Kristina MacMullen quote, she said, "You must come to this experience seeking something more," which sounds like there's a little bit of that going on in your day-to-day. So we're excited to maybe circle back with you all later in the process.
Absolutely.
But thank you, Professor Wright and Dr. Klein. Stay tuned for the next edition of the mini-series that is The Wilderness of You. Thank you for listening. This has been Conduct.her.
This episode was engineered and mixed by Mary Hannah Klontz with intro and outro music by Flo Garut and ad music by Kate Crellin.
Discover more resources at conduct.her.com.